Scene 1, Hook. On screen, sanctions are tools. Visual keywords, legal documents, stamps, government buildings, generic. Narration. Sanctions show up in news constantly, but most people don't know how they actually work. Are sanctions meant to punish, to deter, to negotiate, or to isolate? In reality, sanctions are policy tools with different designs, targets, and side effects. Let's break down the mechanics in plain English. Scene 2, what sanctions are. On screen, definition. Visual keywords, simple animated definition, checklist graphic. Narration. Sanctions are restrictions, often financial or trade-related, imposed to influence behavior. They can target governments, companies, banks, or individuals. The goal is usually leverage, raising the cost of certain actions, limiting access to resources, or pushing negotiations. Scene 3, types of sanctions. On screen, financial trade travel. Visual keywords, bank transfer animation, cargo ship, passport stamp. Narration. Common types include financial sanctions that restrict banking and payments, trade sanctions that limit exports or imports, travel bans, and asset freezes. Some are broad, others are targeted, focusing on specific entities rather than entire populations. Scene 4, who enforces them. On screen, enforcement. Visual keywords, compliance office, spreadsheets, risk dashboard. Narration. Sanctions aren't just statements, they require enforcement. Banks, shipping companies, insurers, and global corporations run compliance checks to avoid penalties. That creates a powerful ripple. Even companies not directly targeted may reduce exposure because the legal and reputational risks are high. Scene 5, primary versus secondary effects. On screen, direct versus ripple. Visual keywords, domino animation, supply chain graphic. Narration. Sanctions can have primary effects on the target, restricted financing, blocked transactions, and secondary effects when other firms pull back. In practice, overcompliance can happen, where organizations avoid anything that looks risky, even if certain transactions might be technically allowed. Scene 6, humanitarian carve-outs. On screen, exceptions exist. Visual keywords, medicine shipments, aid organization B-roll. Narration. Most sanctions programs include humanitarian exceptions, like food and medicine. But the real challenge is implementation. Even when exceptions exist, payment channels and logistics can be complicated, which sometimes delays or discourages legitimate trade. Scene 7, do sanctions work? On screen, mixed outcomes. Visual keywords, balance scale, case-by-case graphic. Narration. Effectiveness is debated because outcomes vary. Sometimes sanctions help bring parties to negotiations. Sometimes they harden positions or shift trade to alternative networks. The impact depends on design, international coordination, economic structure, and what the target can replace domestically. Scene 8, why countries use them anyway. On screen, why choose sanctions? Visual keywords, diplomacy handshake, press conference B-roll, generic. Narration. Sanctions are often seen as a middle option, stronger than speeches but short of military action. They can signal international disapproval, limit resources, and create bargaining chips. But they're not a magic wand, and they can produce unintended consequences. Scene 9, how to read sanctions news. On screen, what to look for. Visual keywords, headline montage, who/what/when checklist. Narration. When you see sanctions in the news, ask, who is targeted, individuals, banks, or entire sectors? Are payments restricted? Are there exemptions? Is there international alignment? Those details matter far more than dramatic headlines. Scene 10, Closing. On screen, tools, not slogans. Visual keywords, simple infographic recap. Narration. Sanctions are complex systems of rules, enforcement, and risk management, not just political slogans. Understanding the mechanics helps you follow global events with clarity. Subscribe for more neutral explainers on how the world actually works.